Hello, loves. How is everybody doing? I'm going to get straight into it. Spirit. We call in the presence of the Holy Spirit. Shatukatiana Utara. Oh, wow. All right, so I'm just going to get straight into this because it did just really make me laugh. I was reflecting that I felt called to deepen into the inner voice and the doom script, and then a very dear friend messaged me and said, "Oh, I've just listened to your YouTube, and when you mentioned the doom script, it just hit me like, oh no, like, yeah, that's what I've been doing." And I was like, yeah, I'd literally just been feeling that. So I've come straight up to get into it. I want to get into this a bit deeper, right? Because the doom script is possibly like, I just messaged her back and I was like, oh no, I feel you. Like literally when it's there, it's the energy of it now is so like, it's so old, it's so icky, it's awful, it's so depressing, and it's like so obviously unbearable now because it is not us, and that's why a lot of us are suffering more when it's present. I guess because we notice it even more than we ever have done, right? Now, the inner voice, it's like, let's get it all on the table here, because this is something that I always come back to. It's something the mother always brings me back to. It's a field in terms of the mind where my work and my medicine is focused. And it's like, you just can't get away from it. You just can't run. We can do all the things in the world to focus on something else, distract ourselves, push it to one side. It just doesn't work, because the vibration of that narrative, that sneaky little running in the background, the vibration of it will be pulsing through your being. It's like a filter. Oh, so even if we're not consciously in the script, it's there in the background, and it's an energetic swamp. Put in some context around the mind. We've got to put context in. We've all been MK Ultra'd. A lot of what we're doing now is picking our way out of the doom, and the script is still running. When it feels highly unbearable, it's normally simply because we're seeing it in a very different way. In other words, we're seeing it very, very clearly all of a sudden, and the fullness of it, whereas before we weren't fully conscious in the same way. So there's an aspect of that. When we fully see something for what it is, which we have to change it, but it can suddenly appear more intense. But the fact is, it's always been there. It's been festering under the surface. When we think back to being a very small child, we don't have the doom script, because guess what? We fucking inherit it from everybody around us for a start. And as a way to survive in a system which does not have our best interest at heart, and which actively controls our consciousness. Add to that all the multitude of trauma, wars, disasters, and all the rest of it that if we haven't experienced them in this lifetime, then we have them in our lineage. I can just see the most beautiful rainbow in my crystal ball. The first thing to recognize about the doom script is that it is a thing in itself. It's the same as when we first recognize that we are not our thoughts. Just the recognition creates a distance. Oh, here I am, and there is the thought. Equally, when that script is running and creating a whole reality for itself, and we feel it, and it's familiar in the most horrible way, just recognizing that that's what it is, and that is what is running, kind of creates a thing where the perspective itself acknowledges that you are not that thing. Sit with that for a moment. When we truly acknowledge that we are not something, then therefore we have a difference, a power to change that, to come differently at it. A lot of this stuff is knowing our own power, because it doesn't matter what darkness is trying to infect you or drag you down. If you know who you are against that, in contrast to that, then it puts it in a place which immediately removes some of its power. I'm not going to lie, a lot of this whole thing, and we do get attached to the doom script as well, the feminine consciousness does like to indulge. And there's a very good reason for that in terms of how it functions itself. The feminine consciousness occupies the space in between. 555. If we think about a masculine consciousness as more vertical and assertive in that way, and straight visionary, the feminine consciousness is the horizontal, and she perceives everything, the spaces in between. But within that natural tendency, there's also a tendency to get a bit stuck in the spaces in between, to indulge that a bit, to wallow a little bit. The dark feminine loves to wallow, right? So we've got to check the aspects of ourselves that end up wallowing in this doom script and basically choosing to believe it. Now, I'm starting to see even more clearly that what that is the result of a fear of your own power. Who relates to? Sit with that. How does that land in the body? It's not just about fear of the obvious things. It's fear of success, fear of being fully embodied, fear of actually getting everything that we want. So fully looking at, with honesty, where there may be attachments to this doom script that's running as well. And we'll come back to like what attachments are: a judgment, an opinion, an expectation, anywhere we try to change, fix, force or push. They're all attachments. So while we're wrestling with these things, can we not just come to a core acknowledgement that that is what that is and this is what I am? I'm divine and that isn't. A whole. So when that script is running, if I come at it with that consciousness, with that witness of it, it immediately loses some of its power. The other thing to say is, please don't go into huge cycles of judgment about yourself when we acknowledge, admit, notice that we are in a state of being such as the doom script, where it's just this constant narrative of negativity and hopelessness and which is not true. It isn't true. But when we acknowledge that, are we then going to go into a cycle of beating ourselves up and judging ourselves because we're in that state in the first place? Oh, I should be happy. I shouldn't be like this. I should. I was saying this on a video about depression a couple of weeks ago. Like, we really should erase that word from our vocabulary if we are trying to feel better about ourselves, because it adds a pressure which is literally crushing. Do not crush yourself under the weight of your own pressure. If you notice something about yourself that you don't like, recognize that that's an attachment. And actually, if I can just accept, that's just the way I feel right now. I've still got this script running. Okay, that's okay. Work with what is. It just is. There's a lot of different reasons why it's running. There's a lot of different reasons why it's imprinted into humanity. Humanity have been slaves for so long that they've developed mindsets that reflect that, right? Poverty, scarcity, and that isn't just about money. Abundance is about so much more than money. We've had our abundance cut in so many ways. Our very magic itself, our energy, our essence, our kindness, our generosity, our integrity, honesty. Abundance is all those things, but we've found it very difficult to live in that way, in the world the way it is, right? So we've developed literally all these multiple ways. I was just saying that a moment ago. We've developed so many different strategies to cope, almost multiple identities, to cope with living in a world that's so fucked up. So as we're picking our way out and really looking at what we're holding in our system and in our mind, we've got to be patient, compassionate towards ourselves, and actively stop the cycle of judgment. It just is. There's many different reasons that it's that way. And even in your own individual life, like if you've got the doom script running and just this constant negative narrative going and script in your mind, that's because you've lived a life where, I mean, where do we start, right? Where do we start? Soaking up everybody's dysregulation, learning behaviours that are highly unhelpful, dysfunctional and based on trauma, absorbing everybody else's negativity and failures and hopelessness, and all the constructs of the old world which told us what our value are, which isn't based on truth anyway, so always felt wrong. We were never received and could never do anything right, were never enough or were too much. Giving respect and credence to lower consciousness, 1212, throughout our life. You know, deferring, being servile to the lower consciousness. So there's many aspects that are layered within that experience that build up a construct of thinking which is hardly going to be positive based on the circumstances. Instead, it's more akin to defense mechanisms and assuming the worst and fear and control and lack, right? Because that's where we've been. So we've got to start to understand the context in that effort to look at it for how it is rather than as some type of self-blame situation, as another way that we can persecute ourselves and find something wrong with ourselves. You know, I'm not even going to go into whatever it is saying. It's doom, isn't it? It's literally like it will suck the joy out of everything. I want you to look at it, if it's running, when it's running, as a whole personality. It's not just in the mind or something that's there and you wish you could get rid of it and all the rest of it, and something separate from you in that way. I want you to look at it as a part of you that's upset. And she has a whole personality. She has a whole way of being. She has a whole set of beliefs about herself and about the world. And start to see him, as a part of you that needs resolution in some way. So in other words, if a child is holding on to a problem, an issue, and keeps saying the same stuff over and over and over again, you would kind of know as a parent or a caregiver that was a sign that there was something wrong, there was something bothering them persistently, intrusively, and you'd kind of be like, right, what's going on? You wouldn't then kind of start beating them up. Yeah? There's something around acknowledging this as something within you that needs resolution. And I can categorically tell you that the resolution is not something outside of you. It's just a shift somewhere. And it will come when you can offer yourself the alchemizing frequency. And the alchemizing frequency is the frequency of the Great Mother, which is acceptance and deep compassion. I will say forgiveness as well, but the thing is with forgiveness, in spirit, there is really nothing to forgive, but humans need to forgive themselves because we love to carry around big burdens of shame and guilt. But really, there is nothing to forgive. Because at any now moment, everybody does the best that they can with what they've got. But a lot of the time we end up going back and we find that part of the punisher energy is where we're still beating ourselves up for what we did do, what we didn't do, what we should have done, all of this stuff, but we're not really paying heed to the fact that we do what we do at the time with what we've got. And sometimes we need to accept that. Okay, so really using the doom script as an opportunity. Thank you. Thank you for showing me yourself in a new way so I can really see how false you are in terms of my true nature, and that you being present is an opportunity for me to look where I'm holding energies within me that are less than divine through my perception of myself, where I'm holding anything less than love for my body and the divine being that I am. And we can go round and round in circles for years. We can get different types of healing, coaching, we can go around the whole world. And we will come back to the same thing if we keep pushing past it and keep ignoring it, because there's nothing outside of us. So I love talking about this, and part of the reason is for that is because I like to shine a reflection and a mirror that will allow you to see what this for what it is, for a start, that it's not your true self, that you do have the power to change it, and that you are worthy and deserving of that. The question is, do you believe that you're worthy and deserving of that? Enough to make a decision to look at this and do what it takes to come up and over it, because it will sabotage you, it will keep you small. And what you've got to ask yourself is, are you prepared to be on your deathbed and think, I knew I should have pushed through that. Why did I let that thing dominate my whole life? Why did I let that feeling, that sensation, keep me stuck forever? Why didn't I act upon that instinct which could have potentially changed the whole trajectory of my life? And most of all, I just want you all to see yourself in your true divinity, because that's what we're here to do. We're here to come home to the truth of ourselves and the divine nature, which we are. You know, once we truly believe that, even if that's the only work that we do, because it makes everything else fall into place. If we truly ground into our divine relationship and who the fuck we truly are as human beings walking this earth, it brings such a deep strength and authority in that gnosis that it kind of pales anything that could have caught hold of us into irrelevance. It's irrelevant when you're anchored in the strength and truth of knowing of who you truly are by birthright, by the fact that you're living and breathing in this body and walking this earth. Thank you for being here. I love you. Until next time.